Hi, it's Mark Ferguson with Invest for More. I'd like to thank you for watching another one of my real estate investing videos. Today I want to talk about fix and flipping. So I've fixed and flipped homes since 2001 when I became a licensed real estate agent. I learned from my father how to flip homes. He's been doing it for a long time. We've probably flipped close to 90 homes together, and since I took over the business from him, I flipped another 20 homes in the last couple of years. I love fix and flipping. It's a ton of fun. It's really cool to see a house transform from a pile of junk into a nice, livable, cool house. It's just a ton of fun. Small jobs, big jobs, they all have their challenges. They all have unique parts to each job. It's fun to take out walls. It's fun to redo kitchens. But the bigger the job, the more risks and the more problems you can run into. So specifically in this video, I want to talk about how much money you can make fix and flipping a house. There's a lot of fix and flipping shows out there, a lot of information online, a lot of people trying to sell programs, and they really kind of mislead you about how easy it is to flip a home, how much money it takes, and even what the costs are to flip a house. Now, some of the flipping shows do a good job. Some do a very bad job about showing what it takes to actually flip a home. Now, I see some shows, they say, well, we bought the house for $75,000, we put $25,000 into repairs, and we sold it for $125,000 for a profit of $25,000. That's great, except you forgot you had to pay a real estate agent to sell the house. You forgot about interest costs and loan costs to finance the property. You forgot about carrying costs. You forgot about insurance. You forgot about taxes. You really didn't make $25,000 in that flip. You might have been lucky to break even. So, on an individual flip, you have to make sure you have all the costs accounted for and you plan for all the costs that will come up. That's the biggest mistake most beginning flippers make, is they don't think about everything they're going to have to pay for. So, a quick breakdown of what you're going to run into when you flip a house. First, obviously, you have to buy the house. Now, I'm a real estate agent. Huge bonus, because many times I save a commission if I'm buying from the MLS. When I sell the house, I also save another commission, so I save almost 6% on many of my flips. But if you're not an agent, doesn't mean you can't flip. It just means you have to make a little more profit to make up for that difference. When you buy a house, there are going to be some costs to consider. First, if you're getting a loan, there will be points you have to pay depending on your lender. It could be 1 point. If you're using a hard money lender, it could be up to 5 points, maybe even 6 points. And basically, a point is a percentage of the loan. So 6 points would mean you have to pay 6% of the loan amount to the lender for their fees. My lender, it's a local bank, I pay 1%. So I pay 1% of the loan amount as a fee to them and origination charge. If the property, the loan, is under $100,000, I don't have to do an appraisal with my lender. Every lender is different. Some will require it. Many hard money lenders will need an appraisal. Appraisal can cost $400, $500, maybe even $600 in some cases, depending on the property, and that is a buyer's expense. If you order an appraisal and you don't end up buying the house, you still have to pay that money. There's also inspection fees. Many times I won't get an inspection because I'm a very seasoned flipper. I know what I'm looking at, and I've got enough room to make up for any problems I don't know about that I don't see. If you're just starting out, I always suggest getting an inspection from a professional inspector, or at least your contractor that you're going to use. Tell you what you're going to run into, what problems there are, things you can't see. Huge benefit if you're flipping. Why I don't get an inspection is because it helps me get deals if I have no inspection clause, gives me advantage, and I pretty much know what I'm looking at. I've flipped enough houses. Inspections can run from $250 to $500 depending on the house. Now, you might be able to get a deal if you do a lot of flips. If you use an inspector quite a bit, maybe you can get that lower amount. If you're buying big houses, lots of square footage, lots of systems, that's where you'll run into that higher dollar amount for the inspection. There'll also be recording fees, possibly some title insurance charges, and other costs when you buy a flip. So you have to account for those. Usually the costs will run from 2% on the low end up to 4% on the high end for the buyer. Some cases you can ask the seller to pay some of those costs. In some cases you can't, but you need to be accounting for those costs when you go into it. So once you buy the house, obviously you're going to have to pay for repairs. So calculate what it's going to cost, what all the repairs are going to be. Carpet, paint, kitchens, bath, lights, drywall holes, electrical, plumbing, whatever repairs are going to be, make sure you know what those are going to cost. If you have no idea what repairs cost, get bids from contractors. Go to my blog, Invest for More, which has a great article on how to know what different items cost when you're repairing them. Make sure you have an idea of what it costs. As soon as you get that figure, automatically add $5,000 if it's a $20,000 job. You're going to run into things that you don't see. Even if you have a contractor bid it, he's not tearing into walls. You won't see everything until you start the demo, you start the job, and then you'll get a full picture of what needs to be repaired. And you will always find something that you didn't think about in the beginning. It's just part of flipping. So once you've got the repairs, you will have carrying costs once you buy the house. So taxes, you have to pay property taxes while you own it. Insurance, you have to pay insurance costs while you own it. If there's an HOA, you'll have to pay HOA fees. And any maintenance, snow removal, yard care, those are costs you'll have to pay while you own the house. On top of that, you're going to have utility costs. You need the electric on, you're probably going to need the water on, the gas on if you're heating the home while you're working on it. Those will be additional costs you'll have every month. You've got to plan for all these costs to make sure there's enough room for a profit. Now, once you get the home repaired, it's ready to be listed, ready to sell, you still had another cost this whole time, and that's interest on the money you borrowed. Now, most of the time, flippers are going to be borrowing money to complete their deals. Some have cash, but most of the time will be financing. You've got to know how many months you'll have the property, how long it'll take for the rehab to sell it, calculate your interest costs to know what that's going to be. Again, it's safe to add on a couple months to what you think your time frame will be. If you think it'll take you 4 months to flip a house, add on 2 months, because the contractors always take longer, they always find something else, and it's better to be safe than sorry when you're flipping a house. Alright, it's finally ready to sell. All the work's done. You've got it listed. Please use a real estate agent. If you're not a real estate agent, it will save you money in the long run because it will make you more money. You have to pay them though. You might pay them 5%, 6%, 7%. There's no standard commission, but that's a cost you have to account for. How much you're paying your real estate agent. You might have to pay title insurance for the buyers, which could be $1,000, depending on your state and your regulations. You might have to pay their closing costs. They could ask for 3% of the purchase price to go towards their closing costs on their loan. And you might run into some inspection issues. Even though you're repairing the house, you're doing a ton of work, it seems like the inspection always finds something else. So be prepared for a few minor things, maybe even a major thing. You never know what could pop up. I had one flip where it was ready to go, everything looked perfect. They did a sewer scope. What we thought was on a sewer turned out the house was on a septic, and nobody had known that for probably 7 years. Luckily, we could hook into the city sewer. It wasn't too costly of a mistake. It cost us $5,000, but that's a big deal if we would have had to redo the whole thing or replace the septic. Things come up when you flip houses. Have to be ready for them. Alright, so make sure you figure all your costs correctly when you're trying to flip a house. Buying costs. Percentage of costs you have to pay when you buy the house, carrying costs, utilities, maintenance, HOAs, taxes, insurance, interest on your loan, paying your real estate agent, title insurance, closing costs when you sell the house. Figure all that up. You've got the cost it takes to add on to the purchase price you paid for it. Now you've got your break-even point. Whatever you make above that number is your profit. When I buy a flip, when I buy a house, I want to make sure I have at least a $25,000 profit margin when I start. Sometimes things pop up, things happen, lowers that down. Once in a while, I'll even lose money on a house if something serious comes up. Most of the time, that $25,000 leaves me enough room. Things go better than planned. I might make $30,000, even $35,000. Things go worse. Maybe I make $15,000, $20,000. Some cases, I've hit a couple home runs, made $70,000 or $80,000 on a flip. But typically, most of my deals, I'm averaging around $30,000 on each flip I do. In my market, I'm in Colorado. I'm buying properties from $75,000 to $150,000. Pretty low range where I'm at. That tends to be the sweet spot. Making a lot of repairs. I've spent anywhere from $10,000 on repairs all the way up to $80,000 on repairs on the houses we work on. To get the great deals, to find houses to flip, you've got to be flexible on what you're willing to buy. So, flipping, usually not going to make $100,000 every deal. You're usually not going to hit a home run all the time you do it. For me, it's a volume game. I try to flip 10 to 15 houses every year, make $30,000 on each house. That makes me very happy. Gives me money, capital to buy more rental properties. I'm a real estate agent. I run a real estate team, so it's easier for me to find those flips, easier for me to sell them, and I save money on each deal I do. Alright, I hope this video helped you get a basic idea what it takes to flip a house, the costs involved on flipping a house, how much money you can make flipping a house. I have a ton more information, many articles on flipping on investformore.com. Thanks a lot for watching.